boys and girls, it's Mrs. B. This week for our Art at Home lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about the job of illustrators and animators. So, illustration and animation is an important art form because you see it probably every single day of your life in some way or another. An illustration is a picture that goes with words in a book, and an animation is an illustration that you would see in a movie. So, when I was in maybe 7th grade, my family went to Disney World in Florida. And we went to MGM, which is now called Hollywood Studios. And MGM, when I was a kid, talked a lot about how movies were made. And before Disney had digital animation, like The Incredibles and Finding Nemo and Finding Dory and Frozen and all those popular movies, their illustrations, you might know that character, Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Donald, their illustrations were all done by hand. So we went on a backstage illustration tour. And you could go in a room where you saw illustrators just like this working. And they were creating all the pictures for Disney movies. Disney movies, when they were made by hand, by illustrators working with pens and pencils and paint, every single time a character moved, they had to draw it again in a new position. So they would make a storyboard that would show kind of an overview of what was going to happen. And then they would do something called a character profile. And a character profile showed you what that character would look like from all the sides with different expressions, what their body parts looked like. This is a character from a show called Tailspin. And that was popular when I was a kid. And I think it's actually on Disney Plus because my kids have been watching it now. And they would show what the character looked like in a whole bunch of positions. And they would practice drawing that character. And actually, lots of people would work together to make it. So there would be many versions of it, and they would practice drawing it so that it looked the same every time. What would happen if I were the illustrator creating the Little Mermaid, and sometimes I drew Ariel with a purple fin, and sometimes I drew her with a green fin, and sometimes I gave her a ponytail, and sometimes I gave her yellow hair or brown hair, or maybe rainbow hair? You wouldn't know it was her every time. So the main job of an illustrator or an animator is to create a character and learn to make that character look the same every time. So we're going to try being an illustrator this week. I'm including a PDF that tells you how to draw one of Mrs. B's favorite characters, and that is the pigeon. So this is a step-by-step by the illustrator who creates the pigeon books, Mo. I practiced my pigeon down here. And Mrs. B always says, draw light till you get it right. So I practiced my pigeon, and now that he's pretty much how I want him to look, I can go over those pencil lines with my Sharpie, color in parts of my pigeon with the Sharpie, and then I'll go around with my eraser and erase out my pencil lines so that my pigeon is ready to be either painted or colored with markers or colored with crayons. So you just trace over those lines that you drew lightly when you were practicing. And then you go back and erase your pencil lines, just like we do in the art room at Goodwin. You could also use a black crayon. That's another great outlining tool for illustrators. So you can draw the pigeon, or I'm including a link where the illustrator shows us how to draw another of his characters, Piggy. I love the Piggy and Elephant books. Or if you're not a fan of the Piggy or the pigeon, you can pick your favorite character. Maybe you have a favorite show. Maybe you have a favorite book series. You can look at a book. Oh, look, you can see the pigeon up here dancing. That's so cute. Oh, he's chasing the bus. Look at all those characters. Hysterical. So this is an illustration that's been turned into an animation, because right there, he's moving, right? So maybe you have a favorite character that you would prefer to draw. That's fine too. You are going to practice drawing a character this week. Anyone you want. And if you're stuck, you can do the pigeon or the piggy. Up to you. An illustrator is an important job because it's a kind of art that's exposed to everybody. You might not see fancy art in frames unless you go to an art museum, right? Or you might not see sculptures unless you're at an art museum. But pretty much everybody sees illustrations and animation in their everyday life. And that's a really, really big job. Lots of people work as animators and illustrators. So I thought it would be fun to try out that art form this week as our at-home art lesson. Another character that I really loved to draw when I was little, I liked to try to draw Mickey, but I found that it was pretty hard actually to make Mickey look like Mickey. But one character I loved to draw was Snoopy and all of the Peanuts characters from Charlie Brown. So that's another good one if you're just starting out. You can look up how to draw Snoopy or Charlie Brown or Woodstock, the little bird. So when you're finished, click Mark is done, just like always. And if you want to, you can tell me in the comments what character you drew. You can write a little comment underneath the Mark is Done button and say, I drew Goofy, or I drew Donald Duck. Or you can take a photo and attach it. Or you can click Mark is Done and email me a photo of your illustrated character. I can't wait to hear what your favorite characters are. I'm kind of out of the loop because I don't watch so many kids shows anymore. Now that my kids are older. But when they were little, my favorite kids show to watch, when my own kids were younger, was Phineas and Ferb. And when I was a kid, I'm trying to think back, I loved the Smurfs and I loved the Care Bears. And I heard the Care Bears are coming back. So maybe some of you like the Care Bears and you want to draw one. I hope you have fun practicing being an illustrator this week, and I can't wait to see your characters. See you next week.